It's 4 o'clock on Wednesday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of the Taxi Music Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! Yeah, baby. Exciting. It's Wednesday, hump day. And thank you, fake band. There's the fake band. And there's the fake audience. iCarly style. And let's see who's in that chat room. It looks pretty busy in there already. We've got Bob Gunnerfelt, Dan Weber, Martin Gravel, Element Studios, Darren Moss, Darren Fletcher, Wind Chimes Music, Andre Stepanian. Oh man, I took my fish pictures back upstairs. Rick Cabot Podmore, Nancy Kalel. Hello, you guys. How are you? I just had a sneezing attack, so if I sound stuffy, I was putting on my makeup and I got a little powder and it was like sneezing attack. Man, oh man, the pollen must be insane today. I went outside like 10 minutes ago just to get a little ray of sunshine before I started the show. Immediately got stuffed up out there. Hello, Jim Stamper. Martin Gravel throws in a fish. Joseph Alonzo, how are you? So, I was actually talking to Bria and Ariana this morning, and I'm just contemplating, not making any promises, that if we are ever allowed to go back to the office, hello Edmund and Jess Kerrigan, John Pearson, if we're ever allowed to go back to our office, and I was there a couple hours ago, I'll tell you about that in a minute, maybe rather than doing a Quarantini happy hour Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe I do like Wednesday and Friday shows that would no longer be the Quarantini happy hour if we're not quarantined, but maybe we'll do something that's more like call-in, where you guys have questions and tell me in the chat room and I call out, so at least we could kind of keep the spirit of this going. You guys seem to like the telephone thing, so just letting you know that's a possibility. Hello, Sierra O'Donad. Yeah, we're only based out of LA. Jesse Kerrigan, long-time listener, first-time caller. Nancy Kalel says, yes, just anything. Hello, Ray Hill. Hello, Marcus. Tony Salazzo. How are you? Anyway, thinking about it, although I got to tell you, when I went to the office, I wanted to go check on something. I was looking for a particular book in my office, which I couldn't find at the office or at the house. And when I pulled into the parking lot, got out of my car, I saw a guy come out of an office that I know from our floor in our building. And I said to him, so are we allowed? Because there's like 60, 70% of the cars that are normally in the parking lot at the office complex that are there. And he goes, well, we're lawyers. We're considered essential. And I said, not by most of us. He thought that was funny. Hello, Alex Dillon. So apparently lawyers are essential. Why a lawyer can't work from home on a laptop like the rest of us, I do not know. But, it's not like they need their giant law library anymore because they can all access what they need online. But they're essential, huh? I wonder if courthouses are even open. Didn't even think about that. I mean, one of my closest friends is a Superior Court judge in LA. He ain't working. Anyway, I don't think lawyers are essential. I think taxi's essential, right? How's my audio level? It's funny. My microphone input level is set exactly where it should be, and I noticed that the meters look a little low. Do I sound okay on your end? Hello, Mark Reel. Sounds fine, John says. Okay. So, is there anything in particular that you guys would like to talk about today? I've got an idea, but I want to see if you guys have anything more interesting. Not to mention, I've got a splitting headache. I don't want to work too hard today. A lot of courts are virtual right now. Yeah, it would make sense, you know? Yeah, I've watched some of the Leland Sklar stuff. Just incredible, man. To be a fly on that guy's shoulder, huh? More fish stories? I don't know, man. I don't know that fish stories really apply to the entire population of the Quarantini happy hour crowd. Did you find out more on the UK songwriting contest? Yeah, actually, glad you asked, Nancy. I went on their site immediately after the show yesterday. They look totally legitimate. Um, yeah, we can do Ask Michael anything today. Yeah, they look fine. I would put them up there with USA Song Contest, John Lennon, ISC. You know, it's funny. It used to be that song contests were a little bit kind of like not looked at with suspicion, but people in the industry, A&R people, look down their nose at them. But you know, nowadays, A&R people have become more willing, almost embracing finding music from any possible place they can. Because they realize so many more people are making music and in places that they might never bump into them. So I think that anything that filters stuff for them um, is exciting. I didn't order Seth Godin's Is This Marketing, but I was thinking about it and I pulled out the first Seth Godin book I ever read. This might be his first book ever. There's his shiny little head down there. Um, Still a great book. You know, it's funny. Um, Almost every one of the 800 business books, mostly marketing, that I've read over the years, I underline stuff, I highlight stuff, I dog ear pages, I write tons of notes in the margins, at the bottoms of pages, you know, the first 2 or 3 pages that are kind of blank in the beginning of a book. I'm always writing notes. The books that I pulled out today as a possible resource for stuff to talk about, I had barely any underlines. I think in Seth Godin's case, I read his books, I'm so mesmerized I can't put them down that I don't underline anything. Um, let's see. I'm going to go order Seth Godin's book while I'm online with you guys, so just chat amongst yourselves for a second. Jesse J. Peck says he was at the doctor's earlier and the liquor store later. Good to go. um, how have the COVID-19 submissions been? Are you getting more responses compared to 2 weeks ago? Yes, we are. There were 3 of those listings that went out for the TV commercials. 3 listings went out, and I forget the numbers, but several hundred for each of them. And they're 100% done with batch number 1. As of yesterday, early in the day, they were about 50-60% done, I believe, with batch number 2. And batch number 3 will be started either later today or tomorrow. And like I said yesterday, we've got like the perfect screeners on those. Um, Tony Salazzo says, remember the story about an artist not wanting to do a song already on Spotify? Would that be... Oh, that somebody wouldn't, a major artist wouldn't want to record a song that's on Spotify. Would they want to record a song that is on, submitted to a song competition? I honestly don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you, but I don't know. I would just be guessing. Frankly, I still don't believe that if a song were on Spotify and, you know, had 24 spins on Spotify, would Beyonce pass on cutting that song if she thought it was a perfect song for her and a potential hit? I think she would not worry about the fact that it's on Spotify and has been heard by a handful of people. Maybe they would say, hey, I'd like to cut this, but I'd like you to take it down anywhere, you know, that it exists on the internet. I just can't imagine that she would, or any artist would pass on something. If it were a hit on Spotify and well known, that might influence them. John Pearson says, I think I submitted at least one song to each of the COVID listings, fingers totally crossed. Um, John Michael Carnett says, great fishing story yesterday. You have to write a book on fishing. No, somebody, maybe Andre, who's a professional guide, should write a book on fishing. there would be too much debauchery mentioned in my fishing stories. I will do, you know what? Speaking of debauchery and fishing stories, here, I'll tell you one. Okay, so around the time, remember yesterday I held up the picture of me kissing the snook on the mouth? I had a friend back in the day. His name was Greg. Um, I lived in Miami. I'll come back to that in a minute, Darren Moss. Ask that question again in a minute. Um, I had a friend named Greg. I lived in Miami during the cocaine cowboy years, where everybody, I mean, it's like it was hard to meet people that were not somehow involved in that business back then. Family people, like straight people, people that went to church. Everybody was somehow involved, either, banks laundering money, Ferrari dealerships selling cars like crazy, for cash. Everybody was somehow connected. So anyway, my friend Greg ran three men's clothing stores, and he somehow got into that business. But we were friends. He and his wife, my then wife, and I were friends. So one time, Greg also he lived on a house on what's called New River in Fort Lauderdale. It's kind of a saltwater river that runs through parts of Fort Lauderdale. And I used to go to his house late at night, and we would go tarpon fishing off of the 60-foot dock that ran the width of his property. And it was great. Sometimes tarpon schools would go through where there would be hundreds of tarpon ranging in size from like 30 pounds up to maybe 100 pounds. Just, you could almost, it looked like a log jam, like you could just walk across them. So we would take finger mullet, which are little fish about this big, maybe 6 inches long, and we would put them on a fishing line and put a balloon, probably, a balloon about this big, maybe 6 feet behind the fish, throw it out there and do what we would call free spooling, which means just letting the line go out, not having it like clamped down on the reel end. And so we're out there fishing. Why am I bringing this up? Oh, and Greg says to me, hey, I've got a friend in Everglades City, which is on the west coast of Florida. It's in the Everglades essentially, and would you like to go fishing with him? He's a professional snook, tarpon, and snook and redfish guide. Would you like to go fishing in the Everglades for snook? And I said, would I? Hell yeah! So we go, and it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive to get out there, if I remember correctly. And the guys got like essentially a bass boat, like a very shallow draft boat that would hold 2 or 3 people. And basically, you just let the boat drift along the shoreline. You go through these. I don't know how these guys find their way in and out of the Everglades. We've all seen the Flipper movies with the guys with the airboats and stuff. Well, it's kind of a similar vibe, but everything looks the same out there, I guess, unless you work there every day and you get to know every little mangrove tree by its personality or something. These guys can find their way in and out. GPS did not exist back then, at least not for us, maybe for the government, but. So we go, and first day we caught a lot of redfish, but no snook. Second day we're out there, we're fishing, and I caught a couple snook. I was elated. And all of a sudden we hear this airplane that sounds so low, like it's going to crash. And a Cessna, like a Cessna 180 or 182, whatever they are, flew over us. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, like, 50 to 100 feet off the deck, maybe lower, and we see it drop duffel bags, like these big army green duffel bags, like 3 or 4 of them, right out of the airplane, like a block away from where we were. And the guide goes, okay, we got to get out of here. And I said, why? And he goes, that's cocaine. They're dropping drugs out of that airplane. So we moved to a different location because we didn't want to be anywhere around that stuff. And about 3 hours later, the guide gets a call on his radio that his wife has been kidnapped. And I'm like, holy smokes, I can't believe your wife was kidnapped. He goes, it's no big deal. It happens all the time. I go, what? What are you talking about? It happens all the time. He goes, yeah, the Colombians got her. I said, what are you talking about? Well, it turns out our fishing guide was the son-in-law of the guy who was like the police chief or the sheriff or something in Everglades City. Turns out, if I'm remembering this correctly, you could probably verify this online, that the mayor of the town actually had an airstrip for small planes on his property. What does that tell you? Everybody was in cahoots over there, that this place was like the drop-off point for illegal substances coming in from South America. Usually they'd come up from South America, stop somewhere, like in Panama or maybe some of the Caribbean islands, and get taken off the bigger planes and then distributed out to smaller boats like those cigarette racing boats, usually painted flat black with no numbers on them and no lights. Or airplanes for treetop flyers, they called them, that would drop this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, this guy's wife got kidnapped. He didn't even call it a day and go in. He just talked on the radio to his father-in-law, who was like police chief or whatever he was. And it's like, no big deal. Happens all the time. So, yeah. Jim Stamper says, I think I saw this in Miami Vice. I'm telling you. It was not to be believed. Eventually, that was one of the main reasons that I left South Florida at the time. There was just so much of this stuff going on. It's like everybody you knew was involved somehow in that industry. And yeah, lots of tension cues. Yeah, we went to birthday parties that we shouldn't have been at, where there were a lot of people around that, so, and anyway, a lot of people got hurt and were getting murdered because of the cocaine cowboy thing. So that, amongst other things, I just said, you know what, enough. And we moved to New York and I became an audio post engineer. How did a Peoria, Illinois guy become a dyed-in-the-wool saltwater fishing guy? Well, I'm actually from Ottawa, Illinois, close enough to Peoria. Peoria is a thriving metropolis compared to Ottawa. And I loved fishing as a kid. I used to go for catfish and bass and crappie in Illinois. But when I moved to Miami to go to college, I was originally thinking about being a marine biology major or going to law school. And then, wouldn't you know it, I think my sophomore year in college was when I got my job at Criteria. So that kind of changed the course of my life. But, okay, Darren Moss is back. Joseph Alonso lives in Miami Beach, so you've heard the stories. Darren Moss says, do you think Spotify has changed song structures? Seems like more songs on the chart start with the chorus. There's no question. Maybe we could ask Jason Bloom about this. I think he talked about, we did talk about this the other day. That because... Here's why. If the song structures have changed, and I believe they have, that it used to be you had to change radio stations. You had to hit a button and change radio stations. And nowadays, everything is a click away from being left and forgotten. So you have to get to the red meat very quickly, which obviously means shorter intros, no intros at all. And maybe going with a structure that starts with a chorus. Certainly lots of interesting stuff in the early part of the song, lots of ear candy. That's why the beat is so important. You've got to get your listener. You can't warm them up and build them into, oh, I'm liking this. You got to have them go, wow, this is awesome right from the get-go. So no question that I don't know that you could say Spotify single-handedly has done that so much as the digitization of music. I mean, think about it. When you were listening to cassettes, man, if you wanted to go to the next song, it was a little bit of a pain. I think you had to push the play button and the fast forward button at the same time, and then it would automatically go to the next blank spot between the songs. It was hard to locate the next song on a cassette. On vinyl, you had to get up out of your chair and go over and move the tone arm. On CD, all of a sudden it became easier. You could just hit the skip button and go to the next song. So I think that was the beginning of why music needed to be immediately good and grab your attention. So I hope that answers your question. Orondo, Ralph Murphy, who's a very, very close friend of mine. Ralph and I think I mentioned before, Ralph used to sit at this very chair at our table when he would stay here all the time. And he talked about rondos, and I know I must have asked him 10 times over the years on a golf course, can you please explain what a rondo is again to me, Ralph? And I don't remember. Honestly, I just don't remember. My memory's not that great. Never has been, frankly. Oh, man. Ian Shortall says, interesting. I have to start listening to more current pop. Honestly, Ian, that's the best thing you can do. If you want to be in the music business today, you need to know what the music business is listening to or what the public is listening to via the music business today. Um, 8-track, yeah. I actually produced a band called Wild Oats on a label. It was a division of TK Records that Casey and the Sunshine Band was on. I think the imprint was called Clouds Records, and the band was called Wild Oats, and it was like a country rock act, like the Eagles or kind of like Firefall. As a matter of fact, I got the guys from Firefall to sing background vocals and do some guitar parts on that record for me, as well as George Terry, the other guitar player in Clapton's band during the I Shot the Sheriff years. And I got George Chocolate Perry to play bass, one of the greatest bass players I've ever worked with. He played bass on some of the stuff on that Wild Oats record, if I remember correctly. And why am I talking about that time period in that studio? I can't remember now. I'm looking through. I don't remember why the heck. Does anybody remember why I was talking about? 8-track. About 4 years ago, one of the guys in the band, Wild Oats, sent me an 8-track. That's how old I am. I actually produced a record that came out on an 8-track cartridge, and he sent me the 8-track still in the original shrink wrap. I've got it in my office somewhere. Michael, do you have a favorite song on the charts now? Can't think of one, honestly. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like today's music." Personally, I think there's some amazing artists out there right now. Um, I'm amazed by Ed Sheeran's talent. I can pretty much listen to anything that guy does, from a writing perspective, from a vocal perspective, lyric perspective, production perspective. I just listen to those records. I kind of judge stuff by, would I give up a body part, a finger, a toe, or something for an opportunity to work with that artist? Ed Sheeran's on that very short list. Um, Post Malone. Gotta say, love Post Malone. I haven't sat down and actually listened to, any of his stuff like an album end to end, but every time I hear his stuff, really good. My first 8-track was Bread, Baby I'ma Want You. David Gates, is he still alive? David Gates lives in the gated community, if he's still alive, lives in the gated community. I think he passed away a few years ago. He lives in a gated community called Hidden Hills, which our office complex backs right up to that. If you were to like launch a mortar over some walls or a fence, you would probably hit something. I mean, there's some incredible houses in there, and you're required to have multiple acres on your property. But it's some of the wealthiest people in all of Los Angeles live in Hidden Hills. Um, Stevie Wonder lives in there. Happy Ron says I'd give up one of Michael's body parts to work with Ed Sheeran. Thanks, Ron. Have I ever heard an artist, a taxi member you would like to work with? Absolutely. There have actually been a few over the years where I've done little things. There's a band called Martin's Dam from Philadelphia. They used to be called Bricklin. They had a record deal, I think, on A&M, and then they got dropped. and they reformed the band and they called it Martin's Dam, which was a little area where they used to go smoke weed when they were teenagers by their parents' house in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. Um, and I actually flew there and spent a weekend recording them. I've told you guys this, in a house, in their parents' house, in a living room with like a sloped wood beam ceiling, glass on one side of the house looking out at a ravine and a forest, like a river rock or flagstone fireplace, wood floors. And I set up a Mackie 8 bus, like a, let's say, 24, 32 input Mackie 8 bus in their parents' garage. We ran a snake out there, pair of Alesis monitors, a couple of Alesis limiters, probably Alesis reverb, and recorded them. I think we rented like one good microphone, maybe two good microphones, and some Sennheiser 421s, a couple 57s. It was one of the best recordings I've ever done in my life. Launched some submissions over the fence to Stevie Wonder. He might not see him coming. Bad joke. Yeah, Billie Eilish. That's an artist who I never, if I'd heard the demos, I don't know that I would have said, wow, she's going to take off. But boy, I would have been wrong about that, huh? I've told you guys about the time I saw, I swear I saw Stevie Wonder driving a red Ferrari. Across from our office complex is a Chevron station. Everybody in Calabasas knows that gas station. Apparently, it's like one of two gas stations, or one of three gas stations in Calabasas, I think. And I was walking to go get a Red Bull or something out of our parking lot, and I see a red Ferrari coming from the direction of the Hidden Hills rear gate to Hidden Hills, the subdivision. Um, and I see a guy driving, I swear it's Stevie Wonder. Somebody later verified me that Stevie's been known to drive around the neighborhood with somebody sitting next to him going, okay, you're doing 35 miles an hour, keep the wheels straight and stop. And now we're going to make a right-hand turn. And I mean, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, did I see his full face? No. Did it look like him? Because as soon as I saw him, I thought, that's Stevie Wonder. Why is he driving? Maybe the whole being having no sight is a marketing thing. I don't know. Nancy Clell says, true or false? In today's music, a song without a bridge probably be skipped over. I heard this by a library owner a few months back. Really didn't know what to make of that claim. I don't know. I think that there are songs without bridges now, and we talked about this with Jason. Choruses are smaller now. The days of, a verse going to a B verse or a lift up into the chorus and then a big, massive chorus, those seem to be diminishing. Choruses are more subtle now. I'm personally not a fan of that, but who am I? I'm just one guy out of millions. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to pass on a song without a bridge. Look, any song, no matter what the structure, if it's super well crafted and whatever structure you choose to go with works in the context of that song, that's what matters most. Yeah, the going way back to like 1976 or 77. Um, is it Steely Dan, Asia? No, there's some famous song from back. Oh no, I know what I'm thinking of. A Journey song. Don't Stop Believing doesn't have a chorus till the song's almost over. Whoops. Time to turn off the ringer. Um, yeah, every section is a hook now. Even the little sections, one of the first things I learned when I started producing was a lot of songwriters and a lot of bands or artists that I work with would come in and they had these interludes. Sometimes they would start with a double verse and have an interlude that was several bars between the first two verses before you would ever get to the chorus. It's like, well, that's wasted time. Yeah, but I like what he played there. It doesn't matter. You're wasting time. The public wants you to get to the red meat. Um, Robert Vellacourse wants to know the Hawaii Songwriter Conference. You go, yes. Should we all make the trip when it's safe again? Yes. And Jesse, I'll come. Do I know Greg Koga? I don't know him. I've been to the Hawaii Songwriter Conference probably more than any other panelist. Jason Bloom would be a close second. I think I've been, they're probably up to like 12 or 13 of them. I know I didn't go to the first one. I was invited to go to the second one. And then I've gone to, I believe, all of them except one year. I want to say I was sick with the flu or something came up. I don't know. Maybe it was like, whatever. I missed one. But yeah, I've been to them all, basically. I get to moderate some of the best panels. I get to moderate the Demo Derby panel, which is always fun. That's the last one of the weekend. I get to moderate like the music library and the music supervisor panels. So it's great. It's got a very similar vibe to the Road Rally. It's usually about 125 to 150 attendees. I know the people that run it and are on the board of the Hawaii Songwriter Festival board. They're all great people. It's done with a lot of heart, a lot of good industry people there. Very, very casual, very friendly, very supportive atmosphere. Yeah, you can buy tickets to Hawaii right now, really cheap. But yeah, they canceled this year because of the virus. Um, Bob Gunnerfeld's got his 1985 DX7 in my studio. Darren Moss says, sorry to repeat, Say So by Doja Cat, number one Billboard hit, starts with a chorus, has lots of choruses, only one verse and one bridge. Is one verse the entire song going to be a new trend? I'm not sure. I don't know. Who knows? We've never, no, I can't say never. We haven't been in a time period where experimentation seems to be embraced as much as it is today. So while some people just turn on, like whatever the AM, or not AM, FM pop station is in their town, that plays the same five hits over and over and over again. There are other stations that play a wider selection of stuff, and sometimes I'm just blown away. There are times where I go look at Spotify charts and listen to stuff and go, wow, I had no idea this artist even existed. This stuff is great. Yep, no rules. Don't know Greg Koch. Well, there goes that squirrel for his daily walk across the patio. Um, our neighbors that live across the street have the same last name. Maybe I'll go ask them. Uh, oh, John Perry can't wait for part two of his thing. As a matter of fact, the transmitter was supposed to go out last night, and we're having a database problem with some of the images that get used in the transmitter. So I've had our transmitter, like web layout guy working with the web database guy to solve that problem all day today. Um, yeah, Look at Me by Callie J. One verse and choruses repeated with variations. Great song. Yes, it is. Eminently licensable, and it has been licensed. Okay, don't waste any. Yeah, Greg Carosa says, one rule, don't waste any time in your song. Make every note count. Yeah, and that's always been part of the magic of Nashville songwriting craft is never a wasted word, never even a wasted syllable. Those guys know how to cut the fat out. All right. I can't believe that I didn't mark up So the whole premise behind this book, by the way, is old school advertising was blasted out to millions of people, usually in the form of radio ads or TV commercials, and hope that a high enough percentage of the viewers are people that would be interested in your product. And it was cost effective. But then, with the advent of the internet and email marketing and web marketing in general, the concept of permission marketing came to the fore. And I mean, there were people that danced around the subject, but nobody made it as famous and kind of codified it as well as Seth Godin did. So, the basic premise behind permission marketing is that you attract an audience and you get them to sign up for your email list, or you get them to bookmark your website, and they become part of your tribe. What you guys are with Taxi, you know. I've got your tacit permission to send you marketing emails, to send you whatever I want, as long as it's in the realm of what we do together. Whereas if I sent out a Taxi email, hey, you know, join Taxi at a discount, or here's a great listing you should know about. Imagine if I sent out a listing looking for, emotionally uplifting songs that would work in post-pandemic TV commercials, and sent that out to every person who's got an email address. What percentage of those people would possibly be interested? Not to mention the fact that would be the last email that the internet would ever let me send again. That would be called spamming. So that's basically the premise of this book. And I'm going to read you some stuff. The 5 levels of permission. You want fries with that, sir? Let me see. I'm just going to look for the good sections. Every step up the ladder, the trust goes, the responsibility grows, and the profit grows. There are 5 levels of permission. The highest level of permission is called the intravenous level. The 5th and lowest level is called the situation level. Here are the 5 levels in order of importance. Number 1 is intravenous and purchase on approval model. The next level down is points, which is the liability and chance model. Number 3 is personal relationships. Number 4 is brand trust. And number 5 is situation. The intravenous permission level. The highest level of permission is called intravenous. This is what you've got to do when you're in the intensive care unit with a needle in your arm and a bag of medicine dripping into your veins. Your doctor has your written permission to inject just about anything he wants into your IV bag. A marketer who has achieved intravenous permission from his customer is making the buying decisions on behalf of the customer. So an example how that would work with Taxi, something we've been asked a million times over the years and we can't do, would be for you guys to give us blanket permission to submit your material to any listings that we think are appropriate. It doesn't work on several levels, but that's an example of what intravenous is. It's just blanket permission. If you guys at Taxi, I trust you. You've earned my trust. You've got good ears. You know the people in the industry. So if you think my song, Mary Had a Little Lamb, is perfect for this listing, by all means, go ahead and send it. Well, then we're spending your money, and then we've got to remember that you've got that song, which is impossible with thousands of members. We could search our database, looking for keywords, but then what if you think your song would have been perfect to submit and we didn't submit it? Then we've got egg on our face. How did you miss my song? I think it's perfect. Well, maybe we missed it because it's an imperfect world and we've got a lot of material, or maybe we don't agree with you. So then it would also put the burden on Taxi to have to go in and to listen to everything that we're thinking about submitting. So now that adds time to the process and overhead expenses on our part. It's just better for you to go, I think this is a good fit, and for us to go, yep, you're right, or no, you're not. Remember the Book of the Month Club, where you would sign up and they would just send you a book every month? That's a good example of intravenous, just drip, drip, drip. Purchase on approval. Of course, not all intravenous marketing is quite this automatic, like the book club I just mentioned. There's a second level called purchase on approval. In this model, second level of authorization is required before the consumer is actually billed. This is far more common than full intravenous. You're doubtless signed up for some of this already. When Columbia Record Club chooses an album, remember that, the Columbia Record Club? Chooses an album for you, for example, they send you a note about what the automatic selection will be for next month. You can choose to say no. If they've guessed your needs correctly, it comes automatically. So marketers often call this a negative option, meaning that you can opt out. When this book was written, so many of the marketing phrases and things that are normal today weren't even invented yet. Seth Godin actually contributed a lot to that stuff. I need a sip. By the way, if I've not told you about this, vitamin water, new flavor called ice, zero sugar ice. Pretty good. Matt Bantle. Hello, Matt. Come on, stay up. Don't be a wuss. Solidaire wants to know, has it ever been considered to offer a monthly taxi membership subscription instead of yearly? It appears that most online services work like this now. Just curious. Yeah, we've talked about this a million times internally at the office. We've talked about it, I think, on the show. I'm not saying that we will never do that. The problem with a monthly is you get somebody who is a potential new member and they see a listing that they are very desirous to submit to. So let's say that we charge 20, 30 bucks a month, whatever it is. They automatically, it's like, hell yeah, I'll sign up for Taxi now and I'll make that submission. Then they will sit there and wait for 5 or 6 weeks to see if, let's say they pitched it a month before the deadline, and then we've got 3 or 4 weeks after the deadline. So they're going to sit there by the phone or at their computer, checking their phone, their email all day long. Did I get that forward or not? They're not going to go for month 2 unless we put it on autopilot, where if you want out, then you say, I want out. So there are problems with that. There was one other reason. Front loading. If people sign up for a month, we would have a ton of people. We would probably get 1,000 new joiners overnight if they thought they could sign up for a month for 30 bucks. They would then go crazy. And tell me if I'm nuts. I want to see what you guys think about this. People would go crazy pitching stuff in that month. They would try and make as many pitches as they could to get as much value out of their 1 month membership of Taxi. Of course, those pitches would be wildly off the mark, and then they would be super pissed off at Taxi because none of their stuff got forwarded. Well, it didn't get forwarded because they pitched 20 things in a month that never should have been pitched. But it would be our fault, not their fault. And the year-long membership gets you involved and connects you with us. It's part of the whole Taxi ecosystem that makes our members successful, not just the opportunities. So I'm fearful that if they could sign up just for a month, they would never avail themselves of this community and all the stuff, that you guys now know. It wouldn't be a lot of additional paperwork for us. Wow, stuff's you could probably include a number of submissions per month. But then people would exceed that. Well, can I buy more submissions? We've actually thought about all this stuff. Darren Moss is probably right. You get a lot of people that would join and never pitch, like gym memberships. Yep. We always say Taxi is like a gym for your music. And if you don't get off your butt and go use the gym, you're not going to drop the weight. If you don't get off your butt and participate in Taxi TV, the Road Rally, the forums, and listening to the screener suggestions, same result. Ian Shortall says, he agrees. They would submit everything they have. Yep. Mark Reel says, I like the current taxi model. Monthly pay, auto renew. It's possible. I mean, we've just finished recently programming stuff in for what's called a 3-pay. I actually have bought parts for some of the model airplanes that I used to fly. I don't fly much anymore. But there was a place that, if you bought a $300 part for a plane and you wanted them to spread the payments over 3 months, they would do that. And the third party actually takes on the financial burden. So they probably charge the retailer like a 2% fee. So let's say it's a $300 thing and they charge 2% is what, $6? So they get $6 and then they have to chase after the person who bought the $300 thing to make sure. And when you buy that thing, you say, yes, I commit to making all 3 payments at $100 each over 3 months. So we've thought about doing that for taxi, where you'd be committed for a year, but you wouldn't have to shell out $300 all at once. Is that something that sounds appealing to you guys? I'm really curious about that because we've actually built that, and we were going to roll it out and test it. Oh yeah, that Sherry brings up another thing. The road rally, the yearly membership includes the road rally. What about somebody who joins for a month? Do I get the road rally with that? I don't think so. Now we're in a fight with that member. I thought he was getting the road rally. Taxi, Jesse J. Peck repeating, taxi is the next step in your life. I'm a 10-year member. Legit. Health got me down, but I'll be rejoining soon with a lot of great Q stuff. Great, Jesse. Hope you get healthy, man. The new Logic update is really great. I wouldn't be surprised if that increases its popularity. Ooh, good to know. I am so seriously ready to get Logic and start playing around with it. So Martin Gravel, FR. So a few of you guys are saying yes to that. You like the idea. You like the idea of taxi selling memberships where it's basically you sign up today, you pay $100 today, $100 next month, and $100 the next month, but your membership starts today, goes for a full year. And if you don't make the 3 payments and we get notified by the third-party money collector that you didn't, then we would have to stop your membership. Does that sound fine? No, my plane's not still stuck in the tree, Robert Velacourse. Joseph Alonso says, I discovered MasterWriter through Taxi, a great aid for songwriting. I was one of the first people to ever play around with the MasterWriter program. I've known them forever. I love those people. And I got to tell you, I'm amazed by that thing. I've actually used it. I've used the songwriting version, not the book writing version of MasterWriter. Sometimes on my marketing stuff where I'm stuck for a word and I go into MasterWriter and it's way better than a thesaurus, way better, infinitely better than a rhyming dictionary. If you guys don't have MasterWriter, you really should invest in it. John Pearson says, yes, I'm MasterWriter. Horacio Emil says, why wouldn't somebody just sign up, use the first month to submit their catalog, and stop paying after that? There's a danger in that. So that's why if we do roll it out, we'll roll it out to 1,000 people and watch and see what happens. It may be that the upside is better than the downside, but we don't know until we try. Jesse J. Peck says, MasterWriter rocks. Darren Moss says, personally, I would understand if Taxi lifted their prices. Boy, you're going to be unpopular in about 30 seconds. It's the same as back in the year 2000. It's actually the same price that it's been since 1992. Can you believe that? What still costs? And our expenses have gone up and up and up. Our rent used to be like $9,000 a month for the office we're in. Now it's up to $13,000 a month. The staff is getting paid more. it costs so much more to operate that company, and we were going to raise the price in 2020, and then along came this little thing called the coronavirus. So right now, I'm just happy that you guys aren't all broken out of work. Man, when I had the conversation today in the parking lot at work with that lawyer, a couple other people stopped by and said, "Oh yeah, virtually all my friends that own small businesses are out of business. They're not going back into business. Friends of mine have lost jobs." We're so fortunate. The taxi has done really well through the whole virus thing and the lockdown. Really, really, really appreciative of that. And glad that I'm not hearing a lot of stories about, people dying and losing their jobs with you guys. But there have been some. I'm so happy it's still $5 a submission. Patrick Adams says what we have now works. Taxi is perfect as it is, says Dean Crepane. Yeah, it's definitely not the best time for change. If you ever look for a cheaper office building, good luck. The problem is, our building is relatively inexpensive. At the time that we got the office, it's 452 already. My then business partner and I were thinking about buying like a 10,000 square foot warehouse and us using half of it and renting out the other half, and doing kind of a modern office-y in a warehouse loft type thing. Problem was, we couldn't find any that were in neighborhoods that we felt were safe for our staff. Anything that we could afford to buy, even with like a 10% down payment, the neighborhoods were bad. They were just like neighborhoods near, like auto body shops and used tire places. They were sketchy neighborhoods that I certainly wouldn't feel good about having female employees walk out of that building and go to their car after dark without, like armed security escorting them. Wow. Inflation calculator says $299 in 1992 is the same as $557.18 in 2020. Wow, wow, wow. And we offer so much more stuff. Back in 1992, we didn't have the forum. We didn't have Taxi TV. We didn't have the Road Rally. We didn't have the level of, frankly, customer service that we've got now. We didn't have as many, genre specific. We had screeners that were genre specific. We just have people covering more genres, and the best crew of screeners I think we've ever had in the company's history. Yes, tomorrow is Jason Bloom. We'll be back tomorrow to listen to the virus stuff. That's a promise. I believe that Ariana's already sent him the music so he could get his ears on it before the show. Heidi Owen says, once you've been forwarded, Taxi is addictive. Yeah, it's the slot machine of the music industry. Somebody once told me that's what Taxi was. I wanted to punch him. Dan Weber says, Michael, can you talk about your relationships with the libraries you work with as clients? All the ones I've met so far seem to love Taxi, or love you and Taxi. I don't know that there's anything more to tell you other than I don't know all of them personally, frankly. The guys in the A&R department, when somebody requests to run a listing with Taxi, they'll do initial vetting on it and kind of put together a one sheet to me. This library seems to have been around for a long time. They have a lot of placements under their belt. They seem to do mostly reality TV shows. I've Googled them. If you ever want to find out bad about something, somebody bad, look for court records. So we do that stuff. And after they've done that, they bring it to me. I look at it. I usually hit back with some questions that they should go ask the people. Just did that this morning, as a matter of fact, with an indie film producer that wants to run listings with us. So we vet them, but then once they're vetted and they're in, I sometimes never meet them. Sometimes I do meet them. I've been known to Skype new companies that we're working with. I do like meeting people face to face. I like getting to know them a little bit, and then eventually, if I like them and I think that they're articulate, and would be a great asset on a panel at the Road Rally. I'll invite them to be a panelist or a mentor at the Road Rally. So I do get to know some of them, and the ones that there's some that I'm very close friends with that I talk to quite frequently. Those are people who I just admire for their honesty, their perseverance, qualities that I would enjoy in any human being. And I like the fact, anybody who's an entrepreneur knows that it's really easy to love other entrepreneurs because you've got that, just like you guys have a shared experience, entrepreneurs have a shared life experience as well. Darren Moss wants to know, do you think someone will carry on Ralph Murphy's excellent annual breakdown of song structures? Nobody's as crazy as Ralph was. I used to give him so much crap for that. It's like, Ralph, students actually did it. And then Ralph would take all the raw data and synthesize it into what we heard him present at the Road Rally and in articles all the time. So I don't know, honestly. I would hope that the professor who headed up the class of students that did it would do it. John Michael Carnets wants to know, why does Taxi not get more briefs for indie film projects? We have been getting more lately, and we're actually pushing hard right now. It's a lot of work. Not that we're afraid of hard work, but I would you guys like to see more indie film briefs? My guess is you would, even though they might only pay $150, $200, $500 for a sync fee. I think it's a great opportunity. And frankly, many, if not most of the indie films do not have a music supervisor. And the person doing the music supervision is typically the producer of the film or one of the producers of the film. And they don't really understand how the licensing side of the music business works. So they're kind of clueless, and they need somebody to help them search for the music. And frankly, we could give them a lot of hand-holding. So yeah, you guys are giving me plus ones. Great, because we've got an indie film producer that we're working with now. Several of the listings that you've seen come through in the last 60, 90 days have been from that one indie film producer. He is in love with Taxi. He reached out to us through a music supervisor, a rather big music supervisor, actually. Excuse me. This indie film producer's brother is either the boyfriend or the fiance of a big music supervisor who I know personally very well. She used to sit in one of our empty offices at Taxi for the better part of a year. So I'd see her lovely face, and she was like this, working all day long. She worked for a bigger music supervisor. She was like the assistant to this big music supervisor who was really, really had a very high bar for people who worked for her. And now this young lady has turned into a really excellent, high quality music supervisor. So through her, she referred this indie film guy to us. Tom and I went out to lunch with him at a Korean barbecue place, had the nicest lunch, and we just really liked this guy. Man, if he wasn't, trying to climb the ladder as a film producer, I would hire him to work at Taxi full time. I really, really like this guy a lot. He's very sharp, very articulate, very knowledgeable about music, but he wants to be a film producer and is producing films. So COVID kind of messed that up because he and I were going to jump on a couple airplanes and go to film festivals, and he's so in love with the music that he's gotten in. His directors on his films are like, holy crap. Most people working on indie films will go to really cheesy royalty-free libraries. And I'm talking like the lower end of royalty-free libraries. They think the people in the indie film business don't seem to understand that they don't pay the royalties. They really, truly believe, almost all of them, I've spent times on their forums and such and talked to these guys, they honestly believe that if they have a film and it goes through the festival circuit and it gets licensed by somebody and it gets picked up and it gets on Showtime or HBO or whatever, or Netflix, they believe that any royalties paid for the music are going to come out of their pocket. They literally think that they're going to have to write a quarterly check to pay the composers. It's like, dudes, no. ASCAP and BMI do that. Really? How? They're clueless. So last year I didn't pull this off. Hopefully there will be a road rally this year, and something I want to do is either right before the road rally or right after the road rally in that 200-seat theater. It's like a Hollywood screening room on the mezzanine level of the hotel. I want to do a special thing for 200 indie film producers that teaches them how the music industry works in their world, and get like this every time an indie film producer or a music soup working on an indie film uses Taxi as their primary resource for the music in their film. Every single time they are completely and utterly blown away by the amount of great and appropriate music they find for their projects. So much better than they would get from royalty-free libraries. And they are amazed, and they tell other indie film producers about it. The problem is, an indie film producer really only does, on average, one film about every 3.5 years. So it's all about timing. And it's all about networking in their world. And so we were getting ready to start networking at the film festivals, and COVID messed that up. But just know that you're going to see more of those. As a matter of fact, you should start to see some listings coming in for a smallish film in the next few days, because we're in the final stages of vetting that producer. When I was an LA actor, oh, Ed, you were an actor. I'm so sorry. I was in one indie where a director hired a composer and an orchestra. Kind of overkill, yeah. But props to him for wanting good music. Michael, are we thinking there will be a road rally? Yeah, we talk to the hotel at least like once a week. They want to have it. We want to have it. It's all up to our goofy mayor. Let's see. One of my tracks presented to the director of feature film listing through Taxi earlier this year, and then the scene got deleted. Oh man. I still have that little gem in my library. Oh man, I'm sorry that the scene got deleted. It happens, sadly. Nancy says, please quickly address, well, we're 3 minutes over, Nance. Please quickly address exclusive listings. Do people shy away from those ads? Ties up your opportunity elsewhere for your song? No, a lot of people are starting to lean towards, here's the deal, is people are liking exclusive listings to some extent, more than I would have expected, for instrumental cues, because they know they can make so many more of them. They don't like tying up a song that they worked a long time on an exclusive deal, unless it's a really, really good library that says, look, I think I've got a lot of clients that could potentially use this. It's not just getting in a library, it's getting in the right library for that song. Not every library is right for you as a person, but it may be really right. Let's say Dean Kripane. Let's take Dean, because I know he's working out and he's listening right now. If Dean writes some dirty, swampy, acousticy, bluesy, roadhousey stuff, he may know a library that he wants to get that stuff in because they're connected to a show like Duck Dynasty, which is no longer on the air. But if that library works with a show that uses a lot of that stuff, then that song belongs in that library. Conversely, if he had orchestral cues that would be great for trailers, that may not be great for that library, because maybe that library only works primarily in reality TV and doesn't even have any contacts in the trailer world. So never get excited. When a library signs one of your things and asks for more, give them more of that genre. And other stuff, that have the open, honest conversation with them. Say, do you have a client base that takes this kind of music after you've done that first deal and they want other stuff? Clearly, they wouldn't be asking for it if they didn't think they could make money on it. But there are some libraries out there that just fall in love with a piece of music and will sign it, thinking sooner or later somebody's going to come along and use it. And they may be right. They probably could be right. But it could sit there for 5 years waiting for that happy moment. Okay. Nancy says, great. All right, it's 5:06. I've got to go. See you guys tomorrow for the Jason Bloom thing. Should be fun. I can't wait to see how that goes. He's always a great guest, and you guys were awesome to submit your stuff. I'm really, really anxious. Really, really anxious to see what he says. All right, with that, bye, you guys. See you tomorrow for what promises to be a very exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Bye-bye.